Well, welcome,
Thank
Mark
you.
Philpott with Costa Roofing to Small Biz Live.
Thank you for having me.
I met Mark as an attendee at the NRBBA monthly meetings, and Mark is also very active in the Redondo Beach Chamber of Commerce and a resident of North Redondo Beach. So we're super excited to share a little bit about Mark's roofing business, which is actually a brand new business that I believe you started during the pandemic, right?
Right, just before, yeah, basically.
Okay.
Basically, most of the business has been pandemic times.
Okay. So you are pandemic ready for sure, right?
Yes.
So Mark, tell us a little bit. Let's start Costa Roofing. How did that name come about? Because your last name is not Costa.
Sure. So the company actually is named after our local high school. My house, the back deck overlooks it. And when I was trying to think of a name, I thought, well, we serve the coastal region. And I looked out and I saw Miracosta and I thought, well, it's a perfect name. So
It is. It is. That's pretty funny. And Costa means coastal in Espanol, right?
coast in Spanish, yeah.
Coast. Yes. Okay, good. So that all makes sense. Now, how about the roofing business? How did you get involved in the roofing business?
So I got into roofing actually locally through just a friend of a friend, almost 20 years ago now. And it's just kind of a perfect fit for me. We see a little bit of everything. We work with everyone from major manufacturers, heavy industrial. We work on high rises. We work on crazy mansions. And then we also work with, just your regular families and little old ladies and get to meet everyone and kind of be a part of their life for a day or a few weeks. So it's a lot of fun.
The one thing that really strikes me about you, and when we were talking about your business, is that you are so customer service centric. That seems to be like your number one priority.
Definitely. It was one of the main reasons why I finally said, you know what, I should just do this for myself because it's it makes business so much easier when you just treat people well, and it makes business so much more fun because you develop real relationships with people when you're just treating them how they should be treated. And so yeah, it's a major or the main focus of my business.
And so you primarily are focused on commercial roofing, but you do a little bit of residential. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I would say last year we probably did 5 residential re-roofs. So very few. We do quite a few repair and maintenance projects on residential work. And it's usually someone that I have some sort of personal connection with. But like we discussed, I'm always happy to help. I've had a lot of years in the industry and I've been involved with a lot of residential re-roofs. So often someone will ask me for advice and then rather than getting involved, I'll either introduce them to someone or just kind of help them analyze the bids they're looking at.
Which I think is a tremendous value for our neighbors here in North Redondo Beach. If you, as the professional, roofing expert, would just take a look at the bids that we have, because honestly, my house is actually getting a new roof right now, and it is a whole new language that you have to learn. And then, obviously it's not my expertise whatsoever. So it's hard. So to have you on hand to just take a look at estimates and kind of explain why there's differences is invaluable.
Sure. And I'm always totally happy to help, of course. I've always joked that if you ask 5 roofers for an opinion, you'll get 6 because somebody's going to give you 2.
Yeah. And they'll all be different, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I will make sure that I put all your contact information in the show notes today, so anybody can reach out to you. So, Mark, tell us a little bit about your roofing experience, some of the maybe a more interesting story about roofing, one of your what's the highest building you've been on, fun facts, that kind of thing.
Sure. So I guess the highest re-roof I've done would maybe be 5 stories, something like that, on a new building right above, just north of Staples Center. Through the last big wave of high rises, we did several of them. And yeah, I've done a little bit of everything, like I was saying, from repairs to major heavy industrial sites. We're about to start now on a 15 building maintenance project, and then a 300 unit roof restoration right on the water in the marina. So those are always fun. I did a house a couple of years ago that was just featured on $1 Million Listing. I think it's listed in the show, it's listed for 65 million. I think it's still on the market for 42 million now. So it didn't stick, but yeah, it's, you definitely get to see sometimes into, well, you see all sorts of different lives in houses and buildings. And yeah, it's nice to have constant variety, even though you're kind of doing the same thing. You're doing it with different people and in different surroundings. So.
Well, and I have to say, I mean, I'm originally from the East Coast, and I feel like we don't have as many different types of even residential roofs as we do here. There's so many different types with the tile, there's still the asphalt, and I don't even know, all the terminology, but it seems like you really need to understand a lot of different types of roofs.
Sure. Yeah. And obviously, in California, our roofs are beaten up primarily by the sun. So
Right.
roofs look totally different here than they do on the East Coast, in the Northwest, in the Midwest. Yeah.
So tell us, your tagline is
repair, maintain, restore.
Restore.
You
And
kind of see it on the van behind me, I think.
Oh yeah.
Probably
If
blurry.
I could see it, yeah. So I think the maintain part, I feel like is probably the most important, because I mean, for like commercial, is there like an average life of a commercial roof, and residential, is there an average life to that roof? And I mean, I would imagine I know commercial that there are roof inspections on a regular basis, because
Sure.
It is such an expensive asset, as well as your home, but I don't think homeowners have roof inspections on a regular basis.
No. And so one thing that I typically try to do with all of my business is try to make sure that at least the first or second year we get an inspection at no cost, and just kind of do just a basic touch up. It is something that is in a roof warranty, that just like an oil change on your car, if you don't maintain it, and it's basically worded so that if you don't maintain the roof and it leaks, then it's not covered.
Right.
Similar to an oil change, right? If you got to 20,000 miles and your engine blew up, and you went to the dealer and said, hey, my engine blew up, the first thing they would ask for is receipts from your oil changes. So yeah, and starting the business, repairing, maintaining, restoring roofs has just kind of been the focus, or not kind of, is entirely the focus of my business, because it's the most effective way to be green, to be cost effective. And you could take let's say a 10 to 15 year flat commercial roofing system, and you can literally almost double the lifespan of that roof, just by making sure that it's maintained, by keeping the waterways cleared, by keeping the pipes sealed. And right, we don't have to get into the boring the basics of all that we do, but yeah, by getting ahead of small problems, just like you would on a car, and by treating it well and just touching it up here and there, you can really extend the life of a roof. And so that is, a lot of bigger contractors focus on bigger projects, but to me, that's the kind of that's the best part of our industry, because it's kind of corny, but the two greens, right? You're green environmentally, and you save green money for people as well. So it's beneficial in both ways.
Well, and even from a business standpoint, it's good to have that regular income with the maintenance program.
Sure.
You are saving your client money by having the regular inspection. I would imagine you stretch the life of the roof so much by doing that. It's kind of like termite inspections, right?
Sure. Sure.
If you don't do it, then you're going to have to tent every 5 or 10 years or whatever, but exact same thing.
Sure.
So what would be your recommendation for, I think, a lot of commercial roofs, they'll do, an inspection at least once or twice a year. And many are quarterly. you know, like an internal inspection quarterly and maybe having a professional come out once or twice a year. What about for homeowners? What's your recommendation for maintenance?
I think really the recommendation that I would give residential or commercial are really the same. I mean, I think it's a good idea to have a roof looked at annually. And especially when we are getting rain, it's a good idea to keep an eye out. You don't need to stand and stare at your ceiling, but if we've had 3-4 days of rain and you walk around and you see a spot on your ceiling, it's you know, it's great to get ahead of it and get it checked out right away. And a lot of times people see something and then they think, oh, I'll take care of that later. But you know, for a contractor like myself or any contractors going to be happy to come out and take a look and tell you what's going on and either give you a proposal to fix it or if it's not something that needs to be. So I think it's good to keep an eye on those things. You know, some little bits of granules coming off of a roof in a rain, that's regular. But if you see a chunk of something fall off of your roof, it's good to call somebody and say, you know, what's going on. And yeah, I think the same a lot of times for commercial building tenants, a lot of times they don't want to get involved, but I think it can be really helpful for a tenant to call an owner and say, hey, we had this leak, we had a roofer come just take a look at it, here's a proposal. You know, obviously in some leases they're responsible or whatever, so every situation is a little bit different, but oftentimes a management company or an owner, you know, if they have several properties, they could be dealing with several issues and trying to call a roofer to look at 20 things, you know. So if you can help, I always just tell people it's just best to be proactive with it, keep an eye on it, and if you see something that looks off, just reach out to a roofer.
Yeah, no,
Stay off your roof.
yeah, I totally agree with that philosophy. That's perfect. Thank you. And what we'll do is, you know, you just gave us some great tips of things to keep an eye out for. Is I'll make sure to put those in the show notes too, so that our viewers can take a look at that and make sure that they're keeping an eye on that. And I would imagine during the rainy season, which we haven't had recently at all, unfortunately, that roofers are pretty busy. So patience, and then also don't forget, you know, when the sun is shining, that's a great time to maybe have somebody come out and take a look at your roof. Maybe Mark.
Definitely. Yeah. And one thing to keep in mind now as well, not as much for residential systems, but on commercial systems, we are with these material backups. I ordered material this week for a project and the lead time is 10 weeks for a material that's normally in stock. Right. So I think definitely if you think there's a problem, I would not recommend waiting to August, September to start thinking about it. There's no cost to have somebody look at something in most cases. So this year especially could get ugly going into fall. And usually, I mean, definitely this time of year, we're always happy to come out and just take a look at something and give you kind of an assessment and say, hey, we think this has, you know, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you don't need to do anything. And not something we charge for.
That's great. Really appreciate that. So how big of a team do you work with?
So my team fluctuates a little bit. We're usually in like the 5 to 10 range, depending on workload. But I try to stay small and lean and keep guys that I know and trust around. And yeah.
And you have, I was looking at your Facebook page, and you have a chief happiness officer. Can you tell us a little bit about your chief happiness officer?
Do you want to meet him? He's here.
Is he handy?
I'll disappear for a second here. Come on, bring him here. He's a little sleepy.
Oh, Rambo.
Rambo turns 2 at the end of July, but he's matured quite a bit because we have a baby in the house, 2 months old, and so I think 6 months ago he probably would have been jumping up and down. Now he's just yawning. He's a mature kid.
He's not the baby in the house anymore.
Not anymore. But he loves to I think riding in my truck. This one especially because it's so high and he hangs his head out the window and we can seat belt him in. It's one of his favorite things to do. So as he gets older, I'm bringing him with me more and more.
Yeah, they love that air on their face, don't they?
Yeah, the tongue flopping and ears. Yeah, and people with his big face hanging out the window, we get a lot of happy laughs and squeals from kids, and yeah, a lot
He
of
is
smiling faces.
truly, yeah, truly a chief happiness officer. Yeah,
Definitely.
so you have a new little baby girl, Palmer.
We do. Yep. Yep. And she's sleeping quietly right now. I keep listening to hear, but I'm not hearing anything. Yeah.
Well, congratulations and happy Father's Day next weekend.
Yeah. Thank you. It'll be my first.
I know.
She's our first. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's great.
exciting.
That's great. And your wife, Carla, is probably a big influence on your business as well.
Definitely. Definitely. And she's, especially while she's been on maternity leave, it's nice to have her around because I can ask her advice on everything I do.
Great,
She's
great.
always happy to share, which is very helpful.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, for your time. Is there anything else we need to know?
I don't think so. I think we've covered everything, but I mean, like you said, you'll share my contact info, especially for people just in the community. If you have a bunch of bids, if you're trying to figure out what to do, I am always happy to just help. I try to be a good neighbor, and I love our community. And so yeah, not so much in just looking for business in that way, but I'm always happy to just help people kind of figure out what they should do. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions, and happy to help.
And thank you so much. I think that's so important. And that's one of the things I really love about the NRBBA is that it's not just about businesses, it's about our neighbors, it's about
Yeah.
building community, and how our neighbors and our businesses together, like we can all be super successful. So I really appreciate your time. And I'm looking forward to talking to you more about roofs someday.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, talk to you later. Bye.